Hello, my name's David Seaman, and this is the Three Lions Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions Podcast. My name is Russell Osborne and this is an independent England football supporters podcast. I hope I find you well. Hope you've enjoyed the recent episodes, all that came your way. They are all available at your podcast provider of choice or threelionspodcast.com. If you are new here, hello, welcome along. If you're a regular, as always, hello to you and thanks for being with me. The recent episode where I took a look at the former England managers and how their first game went down. Well, that went down really well. So thank you very much for that. You can find that, as I say, at your podcast provider. Now, before we get on to the main crux of this episode, which is a chat with former pro Nigel Callaghan, which I think you're going to enjoy, I thought I'd just go through the January transfer window, as I've previously done with transfer windows. Take a look at who eventually made the moves that could ignite their England career, or reignite in some cases. It seems a little while back now, and not really a January transfer window in that sort of way, but a new face, nevertheless. Early January, and Graham Potter arrived as manager of West Ham after they ruthlessly sacked Julian Lopetegui. It's cutthroat, isn't it, managerial world? But it does turn into a managerial merry-go-round. But I think it is important that we mention Potter, because not only was his name linked with England a while back, but with Thomas Tuchel only signing an 18-month contract, and if that's all he sees out, then once again, the FA will be hunting. And if Potter's done well at the Olympic Stadium, or whatever it's called now, at West Ham, then once again he could find himself in the frame again. I think it's fair to say he's not caused any massive waves so far at West Ham, but in his defence it is early days. So let's take a quick look through some of the players that have made moves during January. Max Aarons, former under-21 player, was part of the team that won the under-21s Euros in 2023. That was in Georgia and Romania. He's moved on loan from Bournemouth to Spanish side Valencia. I always enjoy seeing players go abroad. And I mentioned the under-21s Euros win in 2023 because that ties in quite nicely with my chat with Nigel Callaghan that's coming up very soon. John Joe Shelby, remember him? He won 6 caps between 2012 and 2015. He's moved back from Turkey, from a side that is, I can't pronounce it, Eurospor, EYUPSPOR. Eurospor, to Burnley, who of course are looking to return to the Premier League. Wilfried Zaha has moved from Turkish side, I can pronounce this one, Galatasaray. He has moved to the MLS in the States, to Charlotte FC. Genuinely, it feels like he moves in every window. And I say that as I say the same thing every time. He won 2 England caps before changing his allegiances to the Ivory Coast. Now, towards the end of January in the transfer window, this is when the biggies tended to hit. And I always find it a bit strange that the transfers happen at the last minute. You'd think that you've got all of January, you're probably eyeing up someone, get it done early. Get it done in the first week of January. But no, I'm not involved in football, so I probably don't know why they do that. But they all happen generally towards the end of January. And one of the first major ones relating to England was Kyle Walker. He moved from Manchester City to AC Milan. Now, he said on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, "I'm delighted and proud to sign for AC Milan, a club with such rich history, one I've followed since I was a kid. It's an honour to join, and I can't wait to pull on the Rossoneri shirt and get started. Sounds like he's taken a phrase from Robbie Keane. Remember when he seemed to move, he'd always say it was a dream for him to move to whatever side that he'd just signed for. But anyway, yeah, this is Kyle Walker, and with this move, it closed the door on Marcus Rashford potentially moving there, as that was what the talk had been at the time. But Italian rules state that they can only sign one English player during the window. Now, it is a loan with the option to buy, but he teams up with Fikayo Tomori, Tammy Abraham and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Now, he made his debut in the Milan derby, or the Derby di Milano, which ended 1-1. Now, I didn't see it, but from what I read, he had a good game and impressed, as Thomas Tuchel was actually in the stands. So he could have cast his eye on Walker, Tomori and also Abraham, who also played that night. But Kyle Walker will be looking to impress Thomas Tuchel and add to his 93 caps. Now, it's not just the men that moved during the transfer window. There were a couple of Lionesses that moved in the WSL. Chloe Kelly, England's hero, scoring the winner a couple of years back to win the Euros. Well, she has taken a loan move. She's moved away from Manchester City, like Kyle Walker has. She has moved to Arsenal. She's obviously got this year's Euros being held in Switzerland in her sights, wanting more game time to strengthen her position to be potentially included in Sarina Weigmann's squad. Kira Walsh has moved from Barcelona to Chelsea. Now, during her time with Barcelona, she twice won the Champions League, but it seems she was keen to return to England. And she's another who will have a likely presence in the summer's Euro squad. Nearer the time, we'll take a look at that. Back to the men, Marcus Rashford. Now, we said about him at the beginning of the transfer window, something needed to give with Marcus Rashford. He has moved to Aston Villa, as I'm sure you're fully aware, but he hasn't played for England since March last year in the defeat to Brazil, where he won his 60th cap. And that was only as a sub. And he hasn't started for England since Malta at home in November 2023. Now, Villa have taken him on loan until the end of the season. Now, they do have the option to buy for 40 million. Will this be the kickstart he needs? Not just for club, but for country too. We'll know how good a Rashford firing on all cylinders can be. This is a real test now for him, isn't it? How serious is he? What does Unai Emery see in him that Ruben Amorim doesn't? We'll keep an eye on this one. Time will tell. Carney Chukwuemeka. I mentioned about Carney a while back when the transfer window opened. Well, he made a move in the last couple of days of the window. A few years ago, he moved from Aston Villa to Chelsea for around 20 million. His games, well, they were few and far between, as is the case with Chelsea, I think. Actually, I think he was in the European squad that's been doing well in the Conference League. But this is an under-19 Euro winner for England, and he's still only 21. And he has a good chance of playing in the summer's Euros at under-21 level. So a move on loan from Chelsea to Borussia Dortmund in Germany will hopefully give him the spring in his step that he needs, not just for himself, but for England as well. Ben Chilwell, he has also gone on loan. He's another one who has taken time away from Chelsea. He has gone on loan from Chelsea to Crystal Palace. 21 England caps for Ben Chilwell, left back by nature, or at the very least left-sided. He was a hope for us for some time, wasn't he? But unfortunately, injuries hampered him. And recently, Chelsea manager Enzo Maresca publicly said that he's not really in his plans. So he's made his way from West London to South London to hopefully kickstart his game and stay injury-free. So wish him all the best. One move that didn't happen, Jordan Henderson, 81 England caps. Let's remember a couple of years back, he left Liverpool to go to Saudi Arabia to join Al Ettifaq, where Steven Gerrard was in charge. He stuck it out there for a short period whilst picking up a big paycheck. Then I think the reality hit. The standard wasn't all that. So he moved to Ajax in the Netherlands, where despite a few injuries, he was made captain. And quite recently he became embroiled with some Dutch journalists about a story which dragged on, as it appears he was looking to leave Ajax for Monaco during this window. And he was called out on this during a press conference where it got a bit heated. He denied the move, and in the end it didn't happen. And as it appears, he was stripped of the captaincy. Love a bit of drama, don't we? Actually, speaking of Steven Gerrard, it's worth pointing out that he has now left Al Ettifaq as manager. He left there on the 29th of January after a couple of years. Quick Wikipedia search seems he didn't win anything in his time there as manager. It will be interesting to see where he surfaces next, but I have seen that Carlisle are looking at him. It might be just paper talk, clickbait, internet chat, I don't know. But they are currently managerless and bottom of League Two. Now that would be interesting. Saudi, warm Saudi, to almost the most northern part of England. Chilly Carlisle. But by all accounts, Carlisle actually have American owners, so maybe money isn't as much as the problem as you'd initially think. And I'm going to make a sweeping generalisation here and say that there probably isn't a huge standard gap between League Two and the Saudi Pro League. I may be wrong. But like Graham Potter, as I said, being mentioned in the England manager talk, whilst Steven Gerrard is managing, his name will always be in the frame whenever we're looking. So, yeah, let's keep an eye on that. Okay, enough transfer chat. We'll do the same when the next window comes around. Let's hope, if nothing else, these moves enhance our national team. Let's move on to the main subject of this episode now. Recently, I spoke with former England U21 Euro winner, Nigel Callaghan. Here's that chat. Enjoy. Now, in the past, we've looked and spoken with various people about different levels of the England team. And I'm pleased to say that once again, we're going to do a little bit more. This time, a little bit about the under-21s and also, hopefully, a little bit about the England B-Team. So it's my pleasure to welcome to the Three Lions podcast, Nigel Callaghan, formerly of Watford, Derby, Aston Villa and others. And, of course, our national team. Nigel, hello there.
How you doing, Russell? You all right?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Looking forward to an interesting chat.
Hope so.
I've got to be honest. I just about remember you when in your playing days. It's like my age, I guess. I remember you sort of latter days of Derby and Villa, but I've got to be honest. I'm a bit too young for the Watford days.
Yeah, you probably would have been. But they were the days when sort of I was getting into the international side, England, and obviously like Watford, they're not an Arsenal, they're not a Tottenham's, so you wouldn't class them as the fashionable side. But we got into the top league, which was the first division, and we done really well. Our first season, we finished second to Liverpool.
Yeah,
runners up, and I think sort of opened up a few eyes. And obviously, I was playing well. John Barnes was playing well. Luther was playing well. Luther got into the first team. Yeah. John, I'm not sure whether John played an under-21 game and then went into the first team. But I went into the under-21s, and for Watford as to get called up to the England side was a big thing in Watford. It was a big honour for us, really, and a big honour for the club to get international players out of the team. So, I ended up making I think my first game that I played with the England team was in Denmark.
Yeah.
But as I remember, I think I was sub, because Howard Wilkinson was in charge of the side at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was on the subs bench. I don't know, but there was a sort of a little conflict of opinions with the way Taylor plays at Watford, had us playing. And I believe Howard was at Leeds playing a passing game out from the back four. And so I'm not sure whether that was the reason I weren't fitting into his plans while he was England manager. So I started off on the subs bench.
Right.
And I think that's the second game. Again, I was on the subs bench. So my under-21 journey only really began when Dave Sexton took over from him after the second game. And I got in on the right wing and never missed a game all the way to the finals.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's like sort of building up to that is the finals, where that was 1984. That was like the time before like the recent England under-21 success. It'd been that long that England had gone without a trophy at that level, because it was the under-21s Euros. They were played sort of periodically up to the final, weren't they? Like here and there. And it was culminated in like the final against France, wasn't it?
No, we played France in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, beg your pardon.
We beat them, and then we played Italy in the semi-finals.
Yeah,
we beat them, and then we played Spain in the final. So we didn't get an easy path through. And if you look at them under-20 sides from France, Italy, and Spain, there's some pretty big players came out of them sides. So that was a really good win for us. We earned the win. We all played well in that. And the good thing about the winning the Euros was I just lost the FA Cup final with Watford the week before to Everton. Wow. And because we was playing on the Saturday, I missed the first leg of the under-21 final. So obviously when it came back to Bramall Lane on the Thursday and Dave put me back in the side, I was like really pleased. And I set up one of the goals for Mark Haley. And obviously we picked up the trophy, which I think we was the last team to win a major trophy up until last year when the under-21s won.
Yeah.
It was a big achievement.
Yeah, I was looking back, and you're right. I've got myself confused there with the France game, but the Italy one, the semi-final there, the away leg, Italy won the away leg, and I've seen that the goal was scored by Mancini. Is that the Mancini?
I'm not sure, but like I said, that there was a lot of good players came out of them under-21. So I remember, is it Bocciugenio?
The Spanish one.
Yeah, he was in the side when we beat Spain.
Yeah.
I suppose if you look back at them sides and seen who was in them, there probably would be some big names that played in Europe.
I mean, it's not just like on the opposing team. So I was looking back through some of the players that you played alongside, the likes of, as you've mentioned, like John Barnes, Mark Haley, but there was Danny Wallace, Steve McMahon, Steve Hodge as well. Yeah. Plenty of players who sort of made that step up, didn't they? Did you have you must have had your eye on on a step up to the senior team. I mean, that time 84 England were going for or didn't qualify for the 84 Euros. So, I mean, did you have your eye on it?
I was told I was sort of like in the shadow squad that if any of the senior players in the first team pulled out with injuries that I could be going. But I do believe that the cup final probably cost me an England place because I didn't have the best game in the cup final. I'll be the first to admit that. Everton was one of my bogey sides. John Bailey was a hard player for me to play against, but other players seemed to find it okay playing against him. And at the time, Trevor Steven was hitting form for Everton. And it was almost like he had a good game in the cup final. It's almost like he leapfrogged me. and went straight into that first team squad.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, like football's one of them games, though. You know, if you're seen at the right time when you're on form, you know, all the doors open for you. And same way you can hit a bit of a bad patch. I wasn't hitting a bad patch. I just didn't have the best FA Cup final that I could have had. But that's how things work out, you know, and you just get on with it, don't you? I hope you can get back in again.
Yeah, I mean, to play in an FA Cup final anyway, play under the Twin Towers there. I mean, that was the time when the FA Cup final. I don't want this to come across as how it sounds, but that was when it really meant something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, because, you know, these days you play the semi-finals at Wembley.
Yeah.
So your only chance ever of getting to Wembley was getting to that final. And, you know, even though we lost it, we were still winners, because one, it was the first time that club had even smelt going near Wembley for an FA Cup final. So for us, it was the first. For the fans, it was the first. And for the whole town, it was just buzzing. And I often do say to some of my mates that say, oh, you know, do you regret losing all that lot? And I say, not really, because there's some players better than me and have had longer careers than me that have never, ever got to a cup final.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got to look at things in the right perspective, that you played at Wembley. You played in front of millions of people that are watching worldwide on TV. You played in front of the full house, you know. So, God, I'd have more regrets if I never got to play in a cup final.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So you've got to look at the positives rather than the negatives sometimes.
Take us back to that final, though, the under-21 final at Bramall Lane. What was it like there?
It was a bit of a blur, to be honest. Like, you sort of like, we got there. I think we was leading from the first leg. I'm not sure what the score was.
Yeah, so it's 3-0 on aggregate. So it was 1-0 from the first leg.
That's it. We won 2-0. Yeah, it was just a case of I was just so glad that Dave Sexton had put me back on the right wing. You know, it would have been hard losing a cup final and not playing in the other one. So the game went really quick. It went how we wanted it. We all played as well as we've been playing right away throughout the tournament, and picking up the trophy at the end of the match. You know, it's just, I've got some good photos of that. It's just a feeling that will stay with you for the rest of your life. You know, it's really good.
Dave Sexton was part of the England setup for quite a while, wasn't he? Like at various levels. Yeah,
Dave was brilliant. He used to come out for training to our lads. Let's have a bit of Raz. You know, he called it Raz, the flair. He loved the flair, and he loved his football. I was just lucky that he took over the side, because I think had Howard Wilkinson have kept hold of the under-21s, I don't think I'd have seen much of the ball. I think I would have been on the bench most of the time. But Dave obviously saw something in me that he liked, and the rest is history. I played in all the games, apart from one. But he's a great bloke, good coach as well. Yeah,
was he?
Got the best out of all the players, and kept us together, and it was a real team effort. You know, even if you weren't in the side, he kept you involved. Top man.
Oh, okay. And from there, I like so she's mentioned sort of this time frame, or your under-21 games you've played, then you get to the cup final, play that game, then you play in that final, and that's your last under-21 game. And then there's the England B-Team, which is something that I'm aware of, but I don't really know a great deal about, to be honest. And you had one cap at B level, didn't you?
Yeah, it was. I think it was at Forest Ground. I think the idea of the B team was it was players that were too old to play in the under-21s,
right?
But were on the fringe of maybe getting a call up for the first team squad. So I think it was their way of sort of saying, let's keep that squad of players in the B team and keep playing some matches so we can have a look at them. Have a look at them playing together. So I think that's what it was more about. But I think, nowadays is it the under-23s now, not the under-21s?
Well, the under-21s still got a team. I think there is an under. is there an under-23s? I'm not 100% sure, but there's certainly no B team these days because that finished back in 2007. I mean, was it beneficial at the time, B team?
I don't know really. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it was probably their way of being able to look at, i.e., the lads that are on the fringe playing together as 11 on a pitch, because obviously we don't play with each other when we're at different clubs. So I think that may have been a way of thinking, but I'm pretty sure the squads are bigger now, aren't they? Like the England squad's a lot bigger than it used to be back in my day. So I don't think they really felt the need for the B team because they've got that many players at the training camp. They can have a look at them all there.
Yeah. Well, that game, the B team game, was November '84. It was against New Zealand, which you kind of think that's a long way to come for a B game for New Zealand, but I assume they probably had a few players dotted around. But just looking through the players there was Chris Woods in goal, Graham Roberts, who I think was probably at Tottenham at the time, Gary Mabbutt at Tottenham at the time, Steve McMahon, we've mentioned him. Gary Lineker apparently was in that team as well. Yeah,
Gary. I said he must have been on the fringe of getting a call up.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, yeah.
And again, like, you know, maybe he was in that B side because he hadn't really started scoring all the goals that he was scoring when he got into the first team at Leicester. But there's some names. I mean, if you asked me to name the B side, I probably couldn't do because it's been that long ago. But, some big names in there. Like I said, I think it's the fact that the squads, you could take so many more players now in the squad. There was no real need for a B team because you've got your A and B team in the squad.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so it's like 33-man team, I guess, going to tournaments these days. Yeah, I mean, just going like up to date. You probably keep an eye on the England team. What are your thoughts on recent times and going forward?
Whoa, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because I think Gareth done a decent job for England. I wasn't a great lover of his style of play.
Would you have got in under Gareth? Would he have liked your style?
Probably not, because the way Gareth gets his team playing is a lot of it's on the floor. You know, with me, my first option as a winger was, can I get the ball in the box?
Yeah.
If I can't, I've got to beat the fullback and then whip it round him and get the ball in the box. Taylor always said to me and John, when you come off that pitch, you need to ask yourself how many crosses you put in and how many shots you had on goal. And if you add a lot, then you're doing your job properly. If you aren't getting crosses in, then you haven't done your job. So I'm not sure whether I got in the side with Gareth. Not unless he wanted a Beckham style player or something like that. But the thing that annoyed me with Gareth and his team, I don't know whether they were playing under his instructions, but there was times when we started really well. We've gone 1-0 up within 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and we're on top. And I'm thinking, come on, go for the jugular, get that second goal, get that third goal. But we sit back, and then they let teams come at us. And anybody that watches football knows you cannot let a team camp inside your half, because eventually they will score.
Of course, yeah.
And that's at any level of football. You sit back and let them camp in your half. Very rarely will you keep a clean sheet. And that's what we seem to do. We've probably had we've probably had the best squad of players that we've had for a long, long time playing in Europe. And we should be winning things. I know Gareth got us to finals, got us to semi-finals, but we should be winning things with them players. And that was my opinion, and I just, it's just, everyone's going, come on, we're 1-0 up, let's go for it. And then we sit back. You've seen all the games, haven't you?
Yeah, if everyone said it, we all know it. It's just, it was his way of doing it, wasn't it? That was the way he wanted to do things. And then, like, obviously we've got Thomas Tuchel now, a German manager. What are your thoughts with Tuchel?
Well, I wish him well. I hope he does the business for England. It's that the old thing that's going to come up is if England draw Germany.
Yes.
In a match. And then if we lose it, it's because Tuchel didn't care. That's what people are going to say. Yeah. I'm not saying that's what he is, but that's what he faces if England come against Germany. Where the Germans are going to go, where's your loyalty to your country? He can't win. If England get drawn against Germany, he can't win. Personally, my pick would have been either Klopp or Guardiola.
So you don't mind being a foreign manager?
No, I tell you why, because the players that didn't seem to perform for England, they play for clubs that play football at a fast tempo. Right. Like Phil Foden, they said he didn't perform. But if you can imagine coming out of Man City and Liverpool, where they've been used to playing at a fast tempo, and they do play at a fast tempo, and then coming to England where it's all slowed down, the tempo slowed down in England, that's probably why we're not getting the best out of them players. So I believe with the squad that England have got at the moment and the class players they've got, I just think if someone like Klopp or Guardiola that plays at that tempo, got that team playing at that tempo, we'd win trophies.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how Tuchel takes us forward in the next 18 months with the World Cup at the end of it.
He's got that little bit of attitude on him, hasn't he? So,
yes, yeah.
So I think there will be little clashes between him and the hierarchy. But hopefully he'll get that team playing, and it'll be refreshing to see what tactics they go with him.
Yeah.
So we've had the same thing more or less, haven't we, for that last 10 years.
Yeah. Well, one manager you did mention there, and I think we ought to touch on him, is Graham Taylor, who's in charge of your time at Watford. Was he there at Villa as well?
Villa? Yeah, Simon at Villa.
Yeah, and obviously he went on to manage England. Did you see him being a future England manager at the time?
I don't know. I did. My one doubt I had over Graham Taylor with England was that I'm not sure that the team would be able to play the style he wanted.
Right.
He's always been used to having full running of the club. Graham did. He run Watford, and as far as I know, he pretty much run Villa. But it's just whether some of the players wanted to play for him, and it was a hard one. I didn't like to see him fail, and I think that really sort of like sealed it was when he took Lineker off.
Yes,
sooner. I think every man and his dog, as soon as you see him take Lineker off, I just thought, this is not good. But listen, you get offered the England manager's job.
Can't turn it down, can you?
You got to take it. It was like when Frank Lampard went from Derby to Chelsea, and he failed. But hold on, that opportunity might never ever come again in Frank's career. So why not take it and have a go at it? So Graham went in there and he took over England, and he won it the best that he thought he could. He gave it a go, and unfortunately it didn't work. But it's not really worked for anybody else apart from Gareth, and he's only taken it as far as he could.
Yeah, I think at the time as well, one thing in Graham's defence was that he had a lot of injuries, I believe, at the time. A lot of sort of players were injured who he could perhaps have called on at different times.
Yeah, but I think there were a lot of injuries at the time, but I think he was always going to get labelled as playing one style of football,
right?
Because of how Watford played, and what people don't realise is we was really organised at Watford. He had us playing in a system where if the right winger me got injured, Warrell Sterling would come and take my place, and he would slot straight in because he knows what job to do. So we played as a team. We knew how to close people down, and we played a certain way. And I think that might have been a problem, is that as soon as England didn't start playing well, it would have been, it's because of the way, So he had that to compete with a lot. If the team are playing brilliant, nobody to mention it.
Yes. Yeah. I met him once. Really nice man. Nice to chat to.
Wait until you play for him.
Well, there was never any chance of me doing that.
I've had some bollockings up Graham. Yeah, so he's a nice bloke off the pitch.
Yeah.
Strict at the club. You know, you don't step out of line with him. But yeah, he was greatest manager Watford will ever have.
Yeah. Did you ever come across Elton John whilst your time in Watford?
Loads of times.
Did you?
Yeah, whenever he was at the club, he'd always come in to the players' lounge, say hello to the wives, girlfriends, families. Then he'd come in to change room, you know, all right, lads, all the best. And then he'd go up to the director's box. But he used to come as much as he could. We had sort of like a garden party at his house before the season started. And it was his way of saying hello to everybody. There's players that maybe join the club halfway through the season that he hasn't had a chance to meet properly. So he'll meet the families. Everyone from the tea lady, the kit man, got invited that day. It was a great day out. Rod Stewart was there sometimes. Right. Like Kiki Lee at one of his parties. And yes, I'll tell you the one time we got to really know Elton John, you know, the person, was we toured China with Watford. We was over there for about 20 days. And we was told it was an official tour. We was going to be playing 3 matches, 2 in Peking and 1 in Shanghai. Elton John was coming with us. All the press were coming over. So he just said there's going to be some banquets, a Great Wall of China. So during that time, we actually, because, you know, like walking up the Great Wall of China, you're walking alongside Elton John having a chat about just general things, basically. You know, it wasn't about football. It was just getting to know the guy. And, you know, you actually did get to know the guy properly because we had 20 days away. Right. So that was a good one. But he was, he showed his face a lot, and I've seen him about 4 times in concert. He used to put things up on the notice board for the lads at Watford. I've blocked off a set of seats at a Madonna concert or something like that. If you want to go, let me know. And great chairman.
Wow. Brings us on to what you're doing now, like music. How did you find yourself DJing after a career in football?
Well, I actually started getting interested in it when I was about 21.
Right.
And I told Graham Taylor that, I was starting to DJ. I started DJing in a bar in Leighton Buzzards. Right. The guy I met in the record shop, his name is John Chatterley. He was a Luton fan. But he bought his records in this Watford shop. So we got chatting, and he said, I DJ at this club in Leighton Buzzards. Why don't you come over and do a bit? Because some of the Luton players have done it a couple of times. And I said, all right, I'll come over. And I don't think he actually realised that I could DJ. And I just got interested in it from that. I told Graham that I was only doing it on a Saturday night, which we was allowed to do. And I just carried on. And I wanted to see how good I could get, to be honest. People coming on, they're only dancing because you're a footballer. And so that made me even more determined. And because I kept it going when I went to Derby, I told Arthur that I liked DJing. And he said the same thing. He said, as long as you don't do it when you shouldn't be doing it, I haven't got a problem with it. So more or less by the time I'd gone out to play football in South Africa for a couple of years. For 1 year. I went out there for about 4 or 5 months. And it was the year in inauguration with Nelson Mandela.
Okay.
And previous to that, I'd spent about 4 months trying to get fit from coming back from Corfu at Millwall with Mick McCarthy and my old youth manager, Tom Wally. But the trouble was, it took me till nearly the end of the season to get properly fit. And Mick said, well, I can't really offer you a contract if you come back next season and do another 3-month trial, maybe. And I decided I was going to go out to Corfu and work because I was earning some money over there. Then when I came back from Corfu the second time, they asked me to go to South Africa. And then when I came back from that, I was 32, I think 33. And I just started thinking to myself, I've not got that many years left playing at the top level of football. And I've been lucky enough to have played most of my career at the top level. And I just thought, no one's taking me serious as a DJ back in the UK. And I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to throw myself into my DJing career now. And I went out to Kawas, ended up being a DJ at the number one club on the island, and I was manager there as well for a little bit. So he was earning good money and having a holiday and a bit of a lifestyle. And then when I got back to England, I got into DJing in the clubs in England. So I just kept it going from there. I've been lucky. I've been able to earn money doing two of the things I actually love. I'm going to slog away at anything.
Fair play. And you've got the mixes online, have you?
I do a stream on Mixcloud.
Right.
It's a DJ's platform to play music, and you get your followers, and they don't have to pay to get on. They can just go on Mixcloud, register their name, and just have a look who's playing music they might like. So I've got quite a good following on that, and I do it most nights from about 9:30 onwards till about 1, something like that. And it keeps me in touch because I'm sort of like, I'm having to look after my mum a lot at the moment because she's got a few problems, which has limited me being able to travel around doing my DJing. So, it keeps me in touch with the outside world, and I'm a bit of fun on that.
Yeah. And you still got a hand in the football world. Just in the last 5 minutes we've got left, you're on Facebook with Proper Football, aren't you?
Yeah, it's Gary Harris. He started it all up. First time he interviewed me, he was on they had an internet program that was doing music and football. He asked to it when he could interview me, and then he came up with this Proper Football idea, and he asked me whether I'd fancy doing a show with him, and I ended up staying on the show because we had a bit of a laugh, and we've had John on it, we had John Barnes on it, Tony Coton, Sherwood, a lot more for dads have been on it. We've had Phil Cavanagh, who used to play for Northampton, Burnley. So we had quite a few ex-footballers on it. And he goes really deep, Gary. He goes down to the grassroots, down to the lower leagues. And we've had some proper interesting people on it. So, I'm glad I got on it. I really enjoy doing it on a Sunday. And we get people coming on it with a message on the message board. They can fire questions away at us. And we're normally doing that around about 6:30 on a Sunday if we do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it provokes a lot of debate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's good. I had a bit, not an argument with Gary this week. We recorded a podcast, and he's got this dislike about Bournemouth because they've been in the Premier League for so long, but they haven't spent any money on improving the ground. And he's got the ump. And I said, listen, it's not about building a big ground. I said, there's 6 in the league at the moment. I said, there are some Bournemouth fans, but there'd sooner be 6 in the league with a small stadium or bottom of the league with a big stadium. And I said, half of them, they'll go for the first option. But we sort of argued a little bit. It was a bit of a banter, because that's what we do on there. We have a difference of opinion, and then it makes it interesting. I think if we all agree with each other, it'd be pretty boring.
Oh, of course, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so you can go and find Proper Football over on Facebook. As say, like Mixcloud?
Mixcloud's my music stream.
Yeah, but just search Nigel Callaghan, is it?
Yeah, just go in there and search for Nigel Callaghan. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter with the Proper Football. So if you want to see any of our shows, the John Barnes one, YouTube Proper Football. Have a look type in John Barnes, watch that. That is actually a really good episode because John come out with a lot of stuff that even I didn't know.
Really?
He has some really good stories. And, of course, he done his John Barnes rap on it.
He loves it, doesn't he? He'll want any opportunity to bring that out.
Yeah, so it was a more relaxed John on it. He didn't seem like he was being interviewed by Sky Sports where you got to say the right things. It was good. So if you haven't seen it, that's the one I'd recommend having a look at. Yeah, they're all pretty good.
Nigel, thank you very much for your time. It's really appreciated. Just hearing about those under 21 days and a little look into that B side. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. I enjoyed it, Ross. So maybe do it another time.
Yeah, love to. Nigel Callaghan there. Thank you to him for his time. Enjoyed that. Learnt a bit as well. I've linked to both his Mixcloud and the Proper Football through my socials, so go check them out. Thank you very much for listening in. It is always appreciated. Those socials, seeing as I mentioned them, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, just search 3 Lions Podcast and give it a follow. Also, should you want to, you can support the podcast. Every month it costs me to put it out there through the podcast host that I use. Should you want to contribute to those costs, you are more than welcome. Any donation amount is gratefully received. Just head to kofi.com/3 Lions Podcast. ko-fi.com/3 Lions Podcast. Now, the Lionesses will be playing towards the end of this month. They've got 2 games coming up. Portugal away and Spain at home. Very soon I will be looking at that squad and hopefully chatting with Rich Laverty all about it. I hope you can join me for it. So until then, take care of yourselves. Cheers.